Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to Thedifference, a show created for realtors, entrepreneurs, and small business owners who are looking for ways to make the difference in their careers, business-to-business relationships, industry image, and in their community. Today we're going to be talking about building a champion and how sports and coaches impact our lives long after playing days are over. Today I am joined by four gentlemen I've known for quite a while now. Most of you that have seen the show before know Josh Small with WeatherTech General Contracting. Beside me, I've got Adam Harden, and then beside him is Stephen Pine. Across from me is Coach Mike Wheeler, head coach and athletic director of Dallas Christian High School. So we're going to start today. Start with you, Adam. Tell everybody who you are, where you work, and just give us a little bit of who Adam Harden is.
Oh gosh, we don't have enough time for that.
Yeah.
My name is Adam Harden. I'm a 2002 graduate of Dallas Christian High School. Currently work at Norton Rose Fulbright. It's a law firm in San Antonio. We have offices all over the place, and happy to be here with you guys today.
All right. Short and sweet. Steve?
All right. Stephen Pine, graduate of Dallas Christian, 1998. I'm a partner at Patterson and Associates Insurance. Be 17 years now next month, and just happy to be here. Happy to talk with you guys, and happy to share some things about Coach Mike Wheeler.
All right. That's going to be fun. Josh?
Yes, Josh Small, and I own WeatherTech General Contracting. I graduated Dallas Christian in 1996 and played football with Stephen Pine.
Did y'all play together?
Adam and I?
Yeah.
No.
No, you missed by 1 year, right?
Yeah.
1 year.
Yep.
I was responsible for ruining everything that he helped build.
Yeah. I remember that part. We'll get to that in a minute. All right, so Coach Wheeler, tell everybody watching and listening who you are and a little bit about how long you've been in coaching.
Mike Wheeler, I'm the head coach at Dallas Christian and athletic director. This is my 28th year at Dallas Christian and my 39th year overall. So I'm getting old real fast.
Coaching will make you old, though. That's
No doubt.
part of it. So 39 years in coaching. Where did you start?
I spent 1 year in Plainview, Oklahoma, right out of college, and then I went to a 3A school by the name of Howe and spent 3 years there. And then I spent 1 year at Memorial Middle School, and then 6 years at Lakeview Centennial, and then the last 29 at Dallas Christian.
Wow. All right. When you got started in coaching, did you ever anticipate having guys like this come through? No, I'm kidding. What got you into coach? What made you want to start coaching? You like basketball more than football, didn't you?
I played every sport in high school, but I really love basketball. Still love basketball today, and I coached basketball until I came to Dallas Christian. Matter of fact, I did coach Dallas Christian 1 year, and Coach Steve and his age group. I was kind of forced into doing that, but I took it for a year. But I got into coaching. I was, no one believes this, but I was a small kid when I graduated from high school, and I thought I was going to be the next great college basketball player, and I soon found that I wasn't. So I love sports and wanted to stay in it, so I started moving toward getting a teaching certification, and from that point, that's where I've been.
All right. You guys can chime in with questions anytime you want. I'm sure you got a few. What is something, Coach Wheeler, that you gained from coaching that you didn't really expect? I know that when I was fortunate enough, you hired me out there, I had no idea what coaching was all about. I'd been in football my whole life, but never understood how coaching was going to impact me. So what is something that stands out in your mind as far as being a coach that you didn't really anticipate when you started?
Let's see, weight loss, hair loss, ulcers. No, the one of the things that comes to my mind is that, you're in the profession to help mold young men and women. But at the same time, what you don't realize is that you learn as much from the people that you're actually coaching and working with. And I've gained a lot of valuable lessons over the last 39 years and been taught a lot by these young men. And so, you know, when you go into it, you're supposed to be the teacher, but one of the things I found, I've gotten as much or more out of it probably than they have.
Okay. What about these guys? Share anything that you can remember about anybody sitting at this table that really impressed you, shocked you, or whatever. And be gentle on Adam
Yeah,
here.
not everything. Don't
Oh,
share everything.
So that's a question for me, huh?
That is. It is.
Oh, I wish I'd have known that beforehand. You know, the thing that I always told these guys is that, you know, we want to have the best program and we want to be competitors, and no matter what we are playing. And that was one of the things we strive for. But I think the thing that we've always really pushed more than just winning is for them to be able to go into the real world and be successful. And I think today you look at all three, and not just these three, but you could go through countless numbers of young men and women who have been a part of our program that have gone on to be successful. So, you know, when I get to come into a room like this, it really makes me proud. And so when I see them, and now, you know, I'm to the point to where I'm coaching some of their kids, it's always a blessing and a joy to see how they've grown and matured and how they're making a difference in the world.
Right. And that's, you know, one of the things the reason I want to do this show, and for all of you out there that are watching that went to D.C. and came through Dallas Christian Athletics, just want you to know that, you know, I picked these guys out. We've been communicating quite a bit. And so I didn't want to leave anybody out, but the room only seats so many. And with Josh here, it takes up a lot of it. So he's a big boy. Coach, when you started, when we're talking about how this impacts our lives as young men in your teens, and how when you come out and your goal is not just to win championships, which Dallas Christian has won its fair share. How many have they won? 8? 8. And how many have you been to?
I hate to say that. We played in 11.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not easy to win.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's
to win.
not, you know, that
Well,
other
maybe,
team.
Maybe 12. I don't remember.
I know that, well, I'm not trying to put you on the spot on that. It's just I want people to understand in building champions, it goes sometimes beyond the trophy at the end of the year. And that's really what we're talking about now. And how, so you guys take over now. Adam, share with us a little bit about anything that you remember in your junior high school days that you heard that you may not have bought into right at the moment. But now you look back, you know, and occasionally it triggers a memory and you're going, wow, that's, you know, Coach
Sure.
Wheeler really he was right.
Sure. No, I was always a true believer. I never gave him any guff or any
Never.
talk back. So, I've played under many coaches, and a lot of different sports. And I think, you know, one of the kind of the lessons that I've learned is that everybody has different management styles. But, and this is true, just like you said, Coach Wheeler, on the football field, on the basketball court, and in real life, if you're getting feedback from somebody who you know cares about you and loves you, it's a lot different than if you don't understand where they're coming from. And so now in my role in the real world, I always make sure that people know where I'm coming from, and that, you know, I take the time and I sit down and I talk to them, and I want to know about, you know, their family, what motivates them, things that they care for, because that helps me better communicate with those people. And I thought Coach Wheeler did a phenomenal job of, you know, providing the love and the support. So you never felt like, if he was telling you, you know, don't hold the ball that way, you never thought, well, that guy, you know, he's just trying to get on my back because that's who he is.
Right.
You always knew that it was coming from a place of care and concern. And that's, you know, one of the big things that I try to do now as a manager of people is try to hammer home that I'm not trying to get on your back and ride you. I'm really just trying to help us all be better.
Right.
And that's one thing that DC, I think, does really well. And I think, frankly, that's why a lot of coaches stick around at Dallas Christian, is because Coach Wheeler provides that support to them, not just to the players, but to his fellow coaches.
I think that going through that, and Josh, you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that sports really does teach you that the team or the unit is bigger than yourself, or it should. It doesn't necessarily do that with everybody now. But Josh, we talked about that, about how sports and athletics, and especially playing with Coach Wheeler and in that program, really taught us that Dallas Christian, for the people that played there, was,
Special.
it was special, and that and that the team was special, and that we all had to pull together, and not one person was bigger than the goal. So talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about what we talked about, or share your thoughts on that.
I think the biggest thing that that can be related in life nowadays is being accountable to others on the football field, and really any sport for that matter. You have to be accountable to your teammates, to your coaches, to yourself, in order to succeed on the field, and that translates in life and work. There's some of the things that translate from football to life is overcoming sudden change. That's one of the things that we always talked about, is sudden change, a fumble, an interception. How are you going to react to that? That could be a big motivational shift in the game itself, but that applies to life too, because there's all kinds of things that happen, with work and things of that nature, that can change drastically. And you have to be able to overcome that, attack it, overcome it, and be successful in that sudden change that you're going through. Being prepared. I don't know how many times that we would run a play over and over and over again, and we would be like, why are we keep running this play? Because you would think as a player that you're doing your part right. You don't always think of someone else messing up. You're thinking about yourself most of the time, but you would keep running that play to get it right, and being prepared all this time that you spend on the practice field for 60 minutes for one night or one Saturday, whatever it is that you play, and you're preparing and preparing and preparing. And that's one of the things. I mean, I try to be prepared in everything that I do, and it helps because I prepare myself for objections. I prepare myself for things that aren't going to go right, as well as things that I hope that go right, so that when things don't go right, I'm prepared to overcome that hill smoothly.
Okay.
So,
that's great stuff. Steve, we'll get to you. We're going to take a quick break, and go have a few commercial breaks here. We'll be back in just a few minutes, so you guys hang with us. I see a lot of people joining, a lot of Dallas Christian family that's on here. If you guys have any comments or anything you want to say, you can send that comment here. So we'll be back in just a few minutes.
3, 2, 1. KVGIRadio.com.
Y'all have really just opened my bubble and just...
KVGI Radio brings you conversation and entertainment. Be sure to follow us on social media. Who streams the best talk shows? We do.
You're listening to KVGIRadio.com. Streaming live from the KVGI studios in Frisco, Texas. Live without limits.
All right, we are back. We're here today with Stephen Pine, Adam Harden, Josh Small, and Mike Wheeler, head coach of the Dallas Christian Chargers. And for all of you that are looking at this helmet here, they have nicer helmets now. That one is kind of antiquated, and I think this is Adam's. I think he took it out and scratched it on the concrete to make it look like he actually used to hit people.
I think that was the concussion right there.
That was the concussion. Yeah. Before we get started, I want to thank some of our sponsors. Holly Haggard with Geneva Financial. She wants you to know she's been in the mortgage industry for over 18 years and very professional. Works until the job is done. You can reach Holly at 817-761-5626. Also, the Real Estate Triangle with Adam and Liz Terrell. It's a social media group of small business owners that surround the real estate transaction. We have James Kern with Delicate Moving, over 20,000 successful moves, A+ rating in the Better Business Bureau. Brian Poduska with Real Property Management Focus. Communication, action, and integrity are the cornerstones of Real Property Management Focus. You can reach Brian at 469-820-0088. Josh is here today, so I'm not going to skip you, but you get to talk a little bit more. So before we took a break, Josh was talking about some of the things that we learn in our high school careers, college careers, whatever it may be, in athletics and sports and with coaching and coaches. Stephen, it's your turn now. Talk a little bit about it, and you kind of picked up the coaching mantle a little bit.
Oh, yeah, with my kiddos.
Share a little bit about what you learned, how you apply that to business, and then what you're doing now coaching youngsters.
Sure. Oh, okay. Well, one of my first experiences with Coach Wheeler, I guess, was basketball, as he mentioned. I came to Dallas Christian in 8th grade, and Coach Wheeler was the 8th grade basketball coach. He gave me that weird look, like, how did Coach Wheeler coach in basketball? But he coached 8th grade for a year. But basketball we were just talking about this at break, basketball was my sport. I loved basketball. Didn't really have much of a desire to play football or any other sport at that matter, but I was a point guard. I played year-round and traveled the country and moved to Dallas and became a power forward for Coach Wheeler. And that was my first experience of having to, I guess, just kind of swallow a little bit of what I thought I was and play a role that the team needed, right?
Yeah.
And so I did that, and Coach Wheeler taught me that. And so from that point on, I think, and Josh mentioned this a little bit too, but he talked about practice and how we do things over and over and over again. And starting with basketball with Coach Wheeler and then moving in, obviously, to football, I learned that practice does not make perfect, but that perfect practice makes perfect. And that's why you do things 40 times until you get it right. If you practice doing something incorrectly, you're really accomplishing nothing until you're able to do it correctly, and which is why repetition is key, right?
Yeah.
but repetition, doing it the same way over and over again, really doesn't move you forward. And that's one of those lessons that I've taken and implemented into my business career and in my life and coaching now with my kids. But I think the whole key to it is consistency, being consistent with what you're doing. So if you want to make a difference, it's hard to make a difference in one day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But something that you believe in, being consistent with it over and over again, whether your goal is to spread the good news, whether your goal is to win a state championship, no matter what your goal is, you have to be consistent with how you teach it, and consistent with what you demand from the people around you that are on your team and are helping you get there. And so consistency is one of those things that I also have brought into my career and what I do. But as far as coaching, yes, I do. I coach my boys in every single sport that they play, and it is a full-time job. I couldn't imagine actually doing it as a full-time job, but it wears you out. But it's a lot of fun and it's rewarding. We certainly don't win every game, but to be able to see, and I'm sure Coach Wheeler has seen this over his several decades of coaching, but it's really rewarding to see how kids come to practice the first day and how they leave the last day, and just the growth. And when teachers will call you and say that they see a big difference in a kid that's not your own kid,
Mm-hmm.
it really is a rewarding experience. And it reminds me that the disciplines that I've learned from many coaches in my life, Coach Wheeler being a very big part of that, that it works. And it's just that nice reminder to continue on the journey and do it the right way.
Well, coaching is definitely a way to give back for what
Absolutely.
we've all have learned. You know, one of the things. So you guys have heard of Wheelerisms, right?
Oh, yes.
All right.
Yes.
I don't know who coined that phrase. I think it might have been Kurt Wade, if I'm not mistaken. But
That wouldn't surprise me.
so they're this. I don't know if it's a joke. It actually is real. But Coach Wheeler has his Wheelerisms, and I think that it was always funny to us when we were young. But I remember, and of course I coached with him. I didn't play there, but just hearing it and then realizing in life that, you know, one of the ones I always remember is that sports will teach you a lot about life. And I think when you're a 17, 18-year-old young man, you don't really understand what that is until you get out, as you said, in the real world, and start realizing that those things that that you're taught through sports, whether you're being taught by a coach or it's just a lesson that you learned. Adversity, you talked about playing a role.
Right.
Just because I want to be here in this industry, in this company, doesn't mean that's where I'm going to be.
Right.
I'm going to be, and we have to be kind of okay with being put where we fit, where we can be successful. And you know, another one that Coach Wheeler would say is you got to put them where they can be successful.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of time I saw Rusty Spence was a fullback and actually tattooed his number in his arm. And 2 days later got moved to the offensive line and had to change his number. So just some of the stories. But Coach Wheeler, tell us about when, as far as coaching, when you started to see the same principles that you taught on the field or on the court, when did you realize that has such a big impact on the guys that are and girls that are going to be graduating and moving on? Did you understand that concept because of how you were coached and how it was applying to your life, or is that just something that coaching taught you?
I don't know if we have that long. No, it didn't happen automatically. I always say that God has a plan for you, and if you're not willing to listen, He's gonna hit you right in the face and let you know, hey, it's gonna be my way, not your way. But I started out my first 4 years of coaching, and I was in a small school, so I coached a little bit of everything. And next thing you know, I'm a head coach in basketball, and I'm the head track coach, and I'm this. And then I got married, and my wife worked in Dallas, and we decided that small town wasn't going to be the right place for us. So I moved to the city, and I was this great coach. Everything was about me, and I got moved to a junior high for the first time in my career, and it was just devastating to me. But I tell people all the time it was probably the best year of my coaching career up to that point, because what it made me do is stop and realize that what I was doing wasn't about me, because I was in a school where we had kids that didn't have anything. And people say, "You actually cried?" Yeah, I cried. I would go home and cry at night, because these kids didn't have parents that would pick them up. They didn't have food to eat. They didn't have people who cared about them. And so I believe that God put me in that situation to humble me and to get me to understand that it's not about Mike Wheeler. It's about these kids. And that's what really opened my eyes to understand what coaching was really about.
I think you guys correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, but I think that you can recognize the outstanding coaches that have that mentality as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, we'll pick on the SEC, but I mean, when you look at Alabama, Alabama's all about the program. Now you look at the new coach that Ole Miss got. I hope there's no Ole Miss haters out there, but I know which coach I would pick if I were picking, simply because of the process and the consistency, as you said, Steve, that is being implemented. And I watched an interview the other day on one of the players that had come out and was now in the NFL, talking about how the discipline at Alabama was far greater than the discipline and the consistency and process on the NFL team that he was on. And I think that that's where we get to fall back on that. We get to remember that. I know that, looking back, the coaches were some of the first people that ever showed me they cared about me.
Yeah.
And kind of what you're talking about. Yeah, I think that's an impact that goes unnoticed by so many people, is that a young man or a girl can be struggling with self-esteem, confidence, and things like that. And a lot of times it's a coach that can get them to open their eyes and realize who they are and what their potential is. When we talk about adversity and overcoming challenges, working as a team, goal setting, tell me some things that you guys, through experiences at DC, some of your stories on that. If you can remember, Adam, I know you've had some concussions. But, we'll walk you through it.
So, if you don't mind, I'll jump in here.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about, I guess, one lesson. It's kind of playing that role and working your way up. So, and it's the same thing in life. You don't come in as the partner. You don't come in as the CEO. And for me, Coach, you said sometimes it's the Lord, hitting you in the face. For me, that was Jeff Lamont hitting me in the face.
Speaking of Jeff just chimed in.
Oh
here.
boy, I'm sorry. I should have gotten his permission. But to your point, so in 7th and 8th grade, I matured early. I was a good football player, and I thought I was. In the spring of that year, I went out and played, with the high schoolers prior to actually going into high school. And it was a humbling experience knowing that all of these guys were big and fast, and they could move and they could hit. And I needed to find how I could contribute to the success of this bigger program. And so for my freshman year, it was playing special teams and cheering everybody on. Sophomore year, we started working into it. And your brother actually was a great leader on our state championship team. And to have him as a senior captain come and pat me on the back and say, you slipped and you fell, you'll get it next time, that stuck with me. And then when I was in the position to be a leader on the team, I tried to make those efforts also. And so it's learning from your lot on a particular team and building forward and remembering kind of where you were and not expecting to have all of the success that you are going to work for immediately come to you. And I think that's something that I struggle with, because in my career, I think that I should be advancing and I think I should have more responsibilities and all of that. But you have to take a step back and say, have you done perfect practice for so many years to have earned that right? And so that's, you kind of keep stepping back and looking at and evaluating, and hopefully Jeff Lamont doesn't walk back through that door and remind you. But yeah, that's one thing that stuck with me for sure.
Now you won a state championship, right?
Yes.
In 95?
Yes.
And then you won
1-2.
in 97, 98.
95 and 97.
95. Oh, that's right. You were
Yep.
you were done by 98.
Right.
You won. So we went 3 times. 95,
97, 98.
right, and then 99.
And we played 99.
Yeah, right. So Josh, in goal setting, talk a little bit about how you use goal setting and what you were taught as far as setting those goals and how you use that in business now, how that translates.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm the best one to talk about that in high school, but
Yeah, you told us you walked through the weight room.
yeah. For me, I think the impact that Wheeler had on me was more so the maturity of gaining emotional maturity and social maturity. Because I had a different story than a lot of other people going to school there. I had gotten into a lot of trouble, and it was kind of like my last resort, my last place to go. And I actually begged to go there because the other option was not something I wanted. And so when I got to DC, I was really the first time I'd been a part of any kind of team whatsoever. And so that impacted me. But then I had coaches, and Coach Wheeler, Scott Smithy, Felker, these coaches that actually cared about me. And that impacted me drastically. I didn't want to go get in fights anymore. I didn't want to go get in trouble anymore. And so it really impacted me in that manner, and I grew from that. And I continue to grow from that. But that was huge for me that Wheeler and these coaches had that impact on myself and my brother. But as far as goals, if you don't have goals, you don't know where you're going, in my opinion. And you got to set goals. You got to have them in place. You got to understand that you've got to go somewhere, and you've got to fight your way to it and do everything you can the right way to get to that point so that you can succeed in life. And that goes with anything, relationships, work, friendships, anything like that. So
Right.
That's
I remember in college we're playing Central Arkansas, and of course my 4 years of college, Central Arkansas won the national championship 3 out of those 4. We never beat them. The closest we got was my last year, and they beat us by 4 points. And it was halftime, and we were down by probably 10, I guess. And one of the things that really stuck with me, our position coach came in, and he goes, "Everybody can play when you're ahead. You become a man when you can play when you're behind." And I think that professionally, that's kind of life. And again, when Coach Wheeler says sports will teach you a lot about life, whether it's not getting the position you want at the time you want it, a lot of us have to play from behind at different times. Sometimes there's a project we're working on that just kind of crumbles, maybe no fault of our own, but it's our job then to rise up and make sure that the job gets done. Kind of like playing from behind in the fourth quarter. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I agree 100%. And I did want to touch on the goal setting thing, if you don't mind, just for a
go ahead.
second. But I think it's fairly simple to set a goal. I think it's very, very difficult to know what it takes to implement and get to that goal.
Yes.
And I didn't realize how much I had learned about that throughout high school in sports, playing under Coach Wheeler until I got to college and played there. But it was eye-opening to me how we could set goals in college, but no one on the team really understood what it's going to take to get there, except for a few of us. And Coach Wheeler and his staff, when we were there, they really knew how to bring a team together and build a culture that knew how to work together, despite differences that they might have off the field. When we went on the field, we worked together because we had the same goal, and we knew what it was going to take in order to get there.
Right.
And I realized how important that was in college. We were a 500 team all 4 years. We had decent coaches that had the big goal in mind, but none of them could bring that culture together like Coach Wheeler and his staff could. And it was really eye-opening to me, and it's something that I carried forth and have brought into our business. And culture is everything.
It is.
Culture is everything. And I attribute a lot of our growth and success in the business world today to the culture.
Well, that's one thing that I've always admired and respected about Dallas Christian is we talked about this, about it being, a family atmosphere, having that culture, not just on sports, but just the whole school in general,
Absolutely.
that I think is really cool. You don't see that everywhere. But when you establish a culture like that, I mean, most coaches talk about building a program, but it is culture.
Right.
And when you're playing as a senior and those first graders are watching,
Right.
they aspire to be that, and it kind of feeds on itself over and over. Would you agree with that, Coach Wheeler? I mean, you've experienced that for 30 plus years now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've always asked the question of why certain teams are successful and why certain teams are not successful. And you go and you talk to those coaches, and they know the game, they know the X's and O's and so forth. And I really thought about that over the years, but I think the key component is relationships, and that's part of that culture you're talking about, with your coaches being able to develop relationships with their players. And if you're not able to do that, I don't care how good you are, you're not going to be successful.
And so what we've just talked about, imagine that, and I know you do, but that's building a culture for your business.
Absolutely.
And following that, so that people coming in that are new hires, anything like that, they want to aspire to be. No one wants to be the weak link, right?
Right.
And so having that a culture is really going to help your longevity and success in business.
Yep.
And its reputation, it's your brand, and everything like that. We've got about 5 minutes left, so this is going to be fun time now.
All right.
I want you guys to start sharing your G-rated version, of course all of them are, of some of your Dallas Christian experiences and the times that you enjoyed there and really what you got out of it. Josh, I mean, your story was, you shared that with me before, and that's, Coach Wheeler, I mean, you've seen it. It's one of the things that's so great about Dallas Christian is just who it helps and the impact that I've seen that have on a lot of young men, because I was in the football program. I didn't do much else, but just, man, it impacts them for the rest of their lives. But who wants to go first?
I'll kick it off. So this happened, I guess, during my sophomore year during the playoffs. And
remember, you're an attorney. What you say can and will be used against you.
This is a good story.
Okay, good.
A wholesome story. I guess Coach Wheeler had just come back from the district voting, the all-district voting. And as a sophomore, I was fortunate to be a starter and earn a role on the team. And Coach Wheeler came in, and we were watching film. I think we were getting ready for either the semifinals or the state championship. And you were real disappointed, and you said, I'm really sorry. You weren't named the district newcomer of the year for defense, and I thought you earned it. And I just wanted to let you know that I went to bat for you, but it didn't happen. And it kind of floored me to know that my head coach was going to bat for me, trying to get an accolade for me. But I kept thinking, it's one team and it's one goal, and the goal isn't an individual award. And my response to Coach Wheeler was, that's okay. I'll be the only linebacker in our district, middle linebacker in our district with a state championship ring.
Mm-hmm.
And and so, I mean, it's all about that culture and the team mentality. And knowing that you don't have to sing your own praises when you have other advocates that are going to bat for you.
Right.
And
well, that's part of team and family and culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think coaching, the first time I sat through an all-district meeting, we were at First Baptist, and I'd never been anything like that before. And I mean, those coaches do go to battle for those athletes.
I still claim that I earned the newcomer of the year, even if I wasn't
weren't
awarded.
They weren't wise enough to understand. They just didn't get it. All right, Steve, your final game at Dallas Christian, we talked a little bit about adversity. We talked about playing from behind.
Yeah.
Yep. That was my first championship game.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was about 29, 30 years old, something like that. I was young, but I mean, but that whole game just didn't seem to be going our way. I mean, you guys were battling.
We were
but
battling.
we just couldn't get across, and so I'm sitting there going, this just isn't our day. It's not going to be our day.
That's a memorable game for many reasons. And I was a running back. And I played both ways, but I was a running back, and I did the majority of that game. I was a blocking back. We found something that worked eventually, and we ran.
Jordan Black.
We ran right behind Jordan, and we got 6-7 yards of pop. And Jeff Lamond and I, led up through the different holes and tried to clear the way for Preston, and it ended up working. And so that's one of those team roles, right, where you may not be getting the ball, getting the rock, but you gotta do your part to make sure that we can battle our way back into this game. And it ended up being Preston got banged up a little bit, and I had to carry the ball for the first time in about 40 minutes probably. I was giving Coach Wheeler a little bit of a hard time. But yeah, ended up scoring, and I thought Jordan Black was going to break my spinal cord. He squeezed me so hard, but ended up coming out victorious and winning a state championship. But that is, we won a lot of games in a lot of different ways, but that one by far is the most special, and not really because it was a championship game, although that does help, but just because of the adversity that we faced and having to battle our way back. For sure.
Well, it just wasn't adversity for the team, but if you remember, you had a big club on your ankle that you had twisted. Most kids probably wouldn't have played that game.
3 torn ligaments,
And Steve, he battled through that game, and we went into overtime. It was the first overtime state championship, I think, in private school.
Yeah.
And when it came to the end, he sucked it up, and he scored the winning touchdown. Matter of fact, I still have a picture of that in my house, and I see that every day, and it brings back a lot of good memories.
That was awesome. Yeah. All right, well, we're about out of time. Before we go, and before I let everybody go, which one of you two had the most personal fouls?
I don't remember.
I never earned one of those personal fouls.
You earned
either.
all of those personal
My
fouls.
money's on Josh.
Adam had his fair share. Anyway, we want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Hope you were able to we were able to bring some insight on things that can make the difference. If you're watching and following us on Facebook or YouTube, we thank you. And if you haven't, please do. We'd love to hear your stories on what makes the difference for you. So don't forget that it's hard to make a difference until you're consistent in doing the things that make the difference.
3, 2, 1. KVGIRadio.com.
Y'all have really just opened my bubble and just.
KVGI Radio brings you conversation and entertainment. Be sure to follow us on social media. Who streams the best talk shows? We do.
You're listening to KVGIRadio.com. Streaming live from the KVGI studios in Frisco, Texas. Live without limits.
Did we get any questions from
Your sophomore year,
I brought that on there.
and I had to play.
Yeah, Lennon asked me to bring a
Um,
helmet.